Okay. Hi, my name is Olivia, and if you're new to my channel, I am an incoming NMS1 student. In other words, I am an incoming naturopathic medical student, year 1. And if you follow me on Instagram, you probably know this already. I will be pursuing a degree in naturopathic medicine this fall. My path leading up to deciding to pursue a degree in naturopathy is unique, and I've put a lot of thought into not only this decision obviously, but in how I wanted to announce it. And I kind of expected a lot of people to be disappointed that I didn't choose a traditional allopathic medical route. I wasn't expecting as much hate and anger and prejudice as I received. At the same time, I received so much love, which I'm so grateful for, because support absolutely means the world, especially when you put your life online and you do it for free and you just want to help, especially help the pre-med community, knowing how hard it is, and you're met with such anger. And I get it, because I too went through the same doubts with this field of natural medicine, and I sat with that for a really, really, really long time too. So I know what it's like to feel the doubt, and I'll admit I still have a little bit of it. What I'm doing is inherently risky, but in order to understand me, I think I deserve to tell the whole story and my whole truth and step into that power, because I don't think it's really fair to myself, to the field, or to the people that care. If it's okay, I would like to do a series explaining my truths and my story. So without further ado, I want to take you back in time to my years as an undergraduate. I went to college at Allegheny College, which is a really small liberal arts school in rural Pennsylvania. It's north of Pittsburgh, I believe, in a little town called Meadville. I went to a very unique high school, and I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but it was very diverse, and I had a lot of experiences there that I think truly shaped me into who I get to be now. I was always like very average in high school in terms of grades and achievements and stuff. I was really good at sports. I actually got into college primarily on scholarship for lacrosse and soccer, which I then had to, when I got there, defer because I by then had torn both my ACLs. So here I am at college. Ended up in the initial beginnings of a psychology degree and felt kind of at a loss, I guess. I felt like with psychology, I could only go so far, but I still had a lot of questions, specifically with how it worked or what it looked like, or mostly pertaining to the physiology of it, but I didn't know at the time how to put that into words. So at the time, I remember just feeling really lonely and uninspired. For the degree, you had to take a neurophysiology lab, and that was my sophomore year. And it was a lab plus a class. So in the class, I remember sitting there and my whole face like lit up, and you know when your face lights up in your brain, you're like met with information that just resonates, and like for the first time explained a piece of what I'd been learning for 2 years in a way that resonated with me, and I felt inspired by it all of a sudden, because all of a sudden the neurophysiology was backing what I was learning in psychology, and it was like awakening. My soul was like awoken in that first class. It was taught by Dr. Cross. And we were learning about calcium-gated ion channels. And so my naive little self went down to his office hours that same day with the question that, if I took calcium supplements, could I learn better? And he laughed hysterically at me, and I was mortified. And he redirected me with the correct information at the time, of course, but then kind of let me hang out, which was different than the office hours I had before, and was the first professor to show interest in me as a student. And I would ask him millions of questions about neuroscience, essentially. Everything. I needed to understand everything about neuro. And so then we started doing research, and that was the neurophysiology lab part. And of course, that came with rats. And at my school, Allegheny College really emphasizes undergraduate research, which is a humongous strength of the school. To graduate, you have to do what's called a composition, a senior composition, where you independently do your own research project, and I'll get to that. But I will tell you now that doing research with rats was something I really found unsettling. The first time we were in neurophys lab, we had to inject a rat with xylazine and ketamine to essentially anesthetize them, and he asked a student to do it. It was one of these boys that were like on a sports team, I think, and they did it with such like poor abilities, and I remember the rat screamed and I fainted. In the lab I fainted. It was very embarrassing, but it was because I literally I don't like animals getting hurt. I'm obsessed with animals. I'm sure a lot of you can relate. And so I found the rat lab to be really challenging for me, and of course pursuing now a degree in neuropsychology, I had to work with them. So to reconcile my own needs for compassionate care of animals with the simultaneous understanding that sometimes in science we need to perform research on animals to have a better understanding of how our own physiology works, especially the brain, which feels very much misunderstood and poorly understood still, and we have a lot to learn about it to this day. The way I was able to reconcile it was going against the kind of expectation of my mentor, now Dr. Cross, the same professor who had the intro neurophys class that I just was awoken in. He was like, don't get attached to the rats, do not name them. Like, they are subjects, they are research animals, you're not allowed to do that. He would get so mad at me. In order for me to carry out research, I refused to follow your instruction. So by the time senior year rolled around, I had figured out what I wanted to research. Through trial and error, I was really curious about hydrocephalus, so I pursued a rat model for creating a hydrocephalic brain without the obvious associated pain and or neuronal complications. That was fail. Not to mention the fact that I was trying to then heal it with a shunt that I couldn't even size to be small enough for a rat. I learned a lot, but my ultimate goal in the research was to create a project that healed more than it harmed the animal. There was a small amount of literature at the time suggesting that 17-beta estradiol, a non-feminizing estrogen, had neuroprotective effects either before or after a traumatic brain injury. And I was like, And I had already done a few research papers on TBI, traumatic brain injury / concussion. So felt like I had a good understanding of the kind of physiological repercussions of brain infarct. So I pursued that kind of model. I found a few papers and kind of created my own research model after those, and just carried out a year-long research project. But I made certain rules for myself, and that was I would be healing the animals and I would offer them the best quality of life I could possibly offer them. Those were the conditions. And within those conditions, I did name each rat, okay? I did. And I played with them every day. They knew who I was. They sat in my little hoodie pockets, and I'd walk around the rat lab, and Dr. Cross would yell at me, and I would just stick my tongue out basically and run away. And they all had different colored tails. I had 25 of them. They all had different names. They were all young female rats. They were so cute. And on top of that, they unfortunately at the time at my school had wire cages, and so their little feet would get like kind of calloused by the wire cages. So I every day would come and lay these like really thick absorbent paper towels so they had a soft place to stand. Rats are really social animals, so I, of course, had to separate them when I was carrying out the small concussions. I was just creating enough of a injury to produce like tissue damage, but not enough for them to really notice it. So disclaimer. On top of that I was doing a lot of environmental enrichment so that they had fun toys to play with every day and like really yummy treats, and they had a really good life. And I can say that with confidence. If anything, I can say that my rats had a phenomenal life. Obviously, on top of that, I had to carry out certain procedures that were inducing harm to animals, i.e. the creation of the infarct. But and I had to remove their ovaries. But I had perfected my technique in doing so to the point where the recovery time was minimal, and from my understanding there was minimal pain as well, and my incision size was literally not even a quarter of an inch, and I snagged both, and I just used a little bit of electric cautery, and my recovery time was very quick. My mentor was very pleased with the performance and both the ovarectomy and the infarct creation. And then I treated them with 17-beta estradiol. And then the hardest part, of course, because if you're doing a neuro, you have to look at the brain. You can't just put them in an MRI or something. I wish you could. I thanked each one, and we don't need to go into detail because I think I knew that I gave them a really good life, and these animals are bred to be research animals, and compared to other students I saw working in the same lab, I was proud of the life I'd given my rats. I could only wish that other students would take similar steps to ensure the life of theirs. That's all to say, I did wonderful research. It showed a lot of significance across the boards, not necessarily something you want, or like I think everyone secretly wants to have under 0.05 significance, or p-value, excuse me, when it comes to data analysis. That's not to also say that in not having that you don't learn something new. In my specific case, for whatever reason, there was a lot of significance and a lot of clear evidence that the medicine used, the 17-beta estradiol, the non-feminizing estradiol, showed to have neuroprotective effects against brain injury following infarct. I presented it, and it actually won first place. That was my senior year. That was April. I finished, I submitted, I did really well on it. And my mentor, my professor, Dr. Cross, from that first day of neurophys, sat me down and with tears in his eyes told me that I had a physician's heart. And I looked at him like he was batshit crazy, because I knew what he was trying to tell me was that I should pursue medical school, which was something I struggled with for years. And I had to go through a lot when I was young with respect to not feeling like a smart girl. I had a really difficult time believing I was intelligent. I think a lot of, especially girls, struggle with that personal belief and that personal struggle with identity, and thinking that you're not allowed to be smart, or there's no space for you to be smart. And Dr. Cross really helped me with a lot of that and a lot of confidence. I think he told me I was smart hundreds of times throughout my undergraduate career with him, and I'm so grateful, because I wish everyone could have that reassurance in themselves. I'm gonna like literally cry. Now I understand why people like cry on camera. I always thought that was so weird, like recounting things and then like getting emotional. Oh my god, I'm getting emotional. He really helped me believe in myself. And on like one of the final days I met up with him for office hours, he told me I had a physician's heart, and that like was earth-shattering to me, because like I didn't think I was not only smart, but I also had a heart of a physician. Like And he was like, look at how you treated your rats. You took such good care of them. Like, we need people like you in the medical field. Like, please consider this, essentially. And I cried and cried and cried and cried and cried, because as someone who thought, you know, I was going to go into a career of research, or I didn't quite know yet, but I had a robust background in education and felt like an academic and felt like I'd earned my place in academia. Pursuing a degree in medicine is like the hallmark of what's hard as an undergraduate. Like, the pre-meds are like a little society of like people that work the hardest, if that makes sense. And so to hear someone after 4 years of working closely with them tell you that you have a physician's heart, that you possess the qualities that he believes a physician has / should have, and you didn't really see that in yourself, you just thought you were an oversensitive little shit who likes animals, but deep down always kind of was fascinated with medicine and disease processes and questions about that, you need to do yourself a service and pursue a degree in medicine. And I was like, holy shit. It shattered me, but in the best way possible. I think when you come to a crossroads and someone sheds light on a piece of your identity that you had never seen before, it deserves all of the reflection and time and consideration and space you need necessary to process that and decide. And so every day for like a few months after that, I woke up and I'd have a different decision made about my career. Regardless, I had pursued a degree in neuropsychology, which meant that I didn't have the prerequisites necessary for medical schools. I needed a lot more science. So in order to do that, I would need something like a post-bac, either formal or informal. I finally came to my decision, and my decision was, if I don't try, I don't think I'll ever forgive myself. And so I went to work. I graduated. I came home. I moved back in with my mom, had my heart broken, and I was inspired. I was ready, and it was the first time in 4 years where I had clarity about what I wanted and what I wanted to do and what I felt like I was put on this planet to do. Just dove right in, pursued all different routes, researched everything, and I think this is getting to be too long, and I want to explain the next chapter, because this is kind of like the significant chapter of my decision-making process and my journey and my path and what led me here. So this was chapter 1, my undergraduate experience, me coming into the place where I understood that I had a physician's heart, that I wanted to pursue a degree in medicine, and that I felt like I had earned my position in academia as a worthy individual. And those are all, in my opinion, prerequisites of what it takes to be a physician, is an understanding that you're worthy of being in academia, your curiosity, your decision to pursue the unknown, and the courage to do so. And then next comes the understanding that perhaps my heart is a little different than others, and it was put here to heal, and it was put here to help and to serve. And then you kind of sit with that for a while and you work through that, and then you realize that they kind of go hand in hand, heart and brain, and you put them together and you say, oh, maybe I am a doctor. Like for part 2. Bye.